Number 1. What are the crimes classified as provoking war and disloyalty in case of war? They are: number 1, inciting to war, giving motives for reprisals; number 2, violations of neutrality; number 3, correspondence with hostile country; number 4, flight to enemy's country. Article 119. Violations of neutrality. The penalty of prison correctional shall be inflicted upon anyone who, on the occasion of a war in which the government is not involved, violates any regulations issued by competent authority for the purpose of enforcing neutrality. Number 2. What are the elements of violations of neutrality? Elements of violations of neutrality. Number 1. That there is a war in which the Philippines is not involved. May giyera na ang Pilipinas ay hindi kasali. Number 2. That there is regulation issued by competent authority for the purpose of enforcing neutrality. May patakaran na inilabas ng may kapangyarihan para maipatupad ang pagiging walang kinakampihan ang Pilipinas. Number 3. That the offender violates such regulation. Nilabag ng may sala ang patakaran na iyon. Number 3. What is neutrality? A nation or power which takes no part in the contest of arms going to between others is referred to as neutral. Ang bansa o kapangyarihan na hindi nakasali sa labanang armas na nangyayari sa pagitan ng ibang mga bansa ay tinatawag na neutral. Number 4. What is the most important thing to consider in Article 119 for us to consider that such is violated? Excuse me. There was a regulation issued by competent authority for the enforcement of neutrality that was violated. Merong patakaran na inilabas ng mga may kapangyarihan para maipatupad ang pagiging walang kinakampihan ng Pilipinas at ito ay nilabag. Article 120. Correspondence with hostile country. Any person who in the time of war shall have correspondence with an enemy country or territory occupied by enemy troops shall be punished. Number 1. By prison correctional if the correspondence has been prohibited by the government. Number 2. By prison mayor if such correspondence be carried on the seapers or conventional signs. And number 3. By reclusion temporal if notice or information be given there by which might be useful to the enemy. If the offender intended to aid the enemy by giving such notice or information, he shall suffer the penalty of reclusion temporal to death. Number 5. What are the elements of correspondence with hostile country? Elements of correspondence with hostile country. Number 1. That it is in time of war in which the Philippines is involved. Ito ay sa panahon ng giyera kung saan ang Pilipinas ay kasali. Number 2. That the offender makes correspondence with an enemy country or territory occupied by enemy troops. Ang may sala ay nakipag-ugnayan sa kalabang bansa o teritoryo na okupado ng mga tropa ng sundalo. Number 3. That the correspondence is either A. Prohibited by the government or B. Carried on an seapers or conventional sign or C. Containing notice or information which might be useful to the enemy. Ang ugnayan ay alinman dito? A. Ipinagbabawal ng gobyerno o B. Ipinadala sa pamamagitan ng sulat na may palihim na kahulugan o sa mga nakasanayang senyales o C. Naglalaman ng babala o impormasyon na makakatulong sa kalaban. Number 6. What is the meaning of correspondence? Excuse me. Correspondence is communication by means of letters, or it may refer to the letters which pass between those who have friendly or business relations. Ang ugnayan ay pagpapasabi sa pamamagitan ng sulat o pwede din itong tumukoy sa mga sulat na pinapasa sa pamamagitan ng mga tao bilang magkaibigan o may pangnegosyong ugnayan. Article 121. Flight to enemy country. The penalty of arresto mayor shall be inflicted upon any person who, owning allegiance to the government, attempts to flee or go to an enemy country when prohibited by competent authority. Number 7. What are the elements of flight to enemy country? Elements of flight to enemy country. Number 1. That there is a war in which the Philippines is involved. Merong giyera na kung saan ang Pilipinas ay kasali rito. Number 2. That the offender must be owning allegiance to the government. Ang may sala ay dapat may obligasyon na dapat maging tapat sa gobyerno. Number 3. That the offender attempts to flee or go to enemy country. Ang may sala ay nagtangkang tumakas o pumunta sa kalabang bansa. Number 4. That going to the enemy country is prohibited by competent authority na ang pagpunta sa kalabang bansa ay pinagbabawal ng may kapangyarihan. Number 8. May an alien resident be guilty of flight to enemy country? Ang alien resident in the country can be laid liable under this article. The law does not say not being a foreigner. Hence, the allegiance contemplated in this article is either natural or temporary allegiance. Ang dayuhang naniniwala sa bansa ay pwedeng mapanagot sa ilalim ng artikulong ito. Ang batas ay hindi isang dayuhan. Kaya ang pagiging matapat na binabanggit sa artikulong ito ay natural o pansamantalang pagiging matapat.